Hello, boys and girls. You are listening to episode 10 of the Neu Daye Podcast. Feel the power. My name is Peter of Peter and Jake Talks Wrestling, Peter Talks Smackdown, and also Peter's Raw Recap. And on the other end, who we got?
I am with, the Neu Daye Podcast, and also with Eyes on the Ring.
And your name is, bro?
I already said what my name was. Nathan Newman.
You said Nathan. Oh, I didn't hear that for some strange reason.
That was the first thing I said.
Oh, well.
Right out of the box.
All right. Calm your tits. I thought I heard something else.
No.
All right.
Okay.
All right, man. Not a lot to talk about, but enough to talk about. And first and foremost, this is something we haven't even talked about yet. We haven't talked about one of your favorite wrestlers. I can't recall that we've actually brought it up yet. But as Lord Regal would say, Tiasso Champion? What's his name?
He said Tommaso Ciampa or something.
Yeah, he said champion.
It was really, really weird.
And I was like, why didn't they cut that out?
Well, because he said it, and there's no way that they could overdub that.
I mean, they could have just did the take again.
They could have, but they didn't. And I
have this weird feeling that Tommaso was like, I'm not rocking this boat. He's like, yeah, he could call me whatever the fuck he wants. For all I care, I'm on fucking WWE television right now.
Yeah, I mean, people that pronounce his last name, I mean, I've heard it pronounced 1,000 different ways, and it's just people always they see the I and they don't know how to pronounce it as an H. So whenever someone says it, I always get a kick out of it. But William Regal, I mean, this is a guy who used to call Triple H Triple H, and then he would call Umaga Umanga. So it doesn't surprise me that he kind of slipped up on Ciampa's name. But we'll see what he if he keeps referring to him as that going forward.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of awesome if he did. But moving forward, to what degree? Now, I will say this honestly, and it's funny. We right off the bat, we ain't even said how you doing or nothing. But fuck it, I know how you doing.
How you doing?
Oh God. That first performance by, I guess, Gargano, he got his off. But Caiampa, not so much.
Yeah, I think they wanted to showcase more of what Gargano could do, because I think if you look at both Gargano and Ciampa, more people probably know who Ciampa is versus who Gargano is.
What's
that?
I was like, Gargano didn't go through the rank. He didn't go through ROH. He's just all Evolve and PWG.
He Evolve and Chikara.
Chikara, okay.
And that company, as far as I'm concerned, I've got a really good friend. My best friend really likes them.
Friend.
I'm actually going to a show, a Chikara show on October 22nd, but I'm doing it to humor my best friend, and they're not really my thing, but that's where he got his fame.
You and your best friend talk again. Cut it out. You have no friends, let alone a best friend. Jesus Christ, you always got to refer to them as your best friend. Does this motherfucker has a name?
Gosh.
Uh-oh. Then I thought you got pissed at me and hung up.
No, it probably sounded that way, but no, I went to go close Twitter, because I'm on Twitter and I'm on Skype.
Oh.
I've got the two running simultaneously. But I hit my button to minimize everything, and then I went to go flick Twitter away, but I accidentally flicked Skype away.
Well, it's more like you flicked me off. So if you're listening now, that little jump in the audio, I thought he actually hung up on me when I was talking about how he has no friends.
No, that's really funny that's the timing of that, but no, I didn't hang up on you on purpose.
So to answer my question, what is this friend's name? And does he listen to this podcast?
His name is Joe, and no, he doesn't listen to a lot of podcasts. So, because he just doesn't have the time. But I mean, he knows that I do podcasts. Like, he knows I do this one. And he knows I do.
Is he also a wrestling fan?
Yeah, he didn't start out as one. Like, we've known each other since we were like 3 years old. And I was always, like, ever since I was 3-4 years old, I've always been a wrestling fan. He started getting into it like 98, 99. So, but eventually he got into it, and now he's more into it probably than I am. But
okay, so Chikara, like, one question, because I remember this is maybe like 2 years ago. I remember them shutting it down. When did it?
Yeah, and it was a storyline.
Yeah, it was a storyline, but when did it get back up?
It got back up. It got reopened. I want to say May of last year.
Okay,
but like.
Do you know how they tied up the storyline to it? You know, because I remember how it got shut down. It was like a bunch of people ran in and kind of tore up the place, like Nexus style, and then kicked everyone out. But like, I haven't heard any news between that then and it reopening. But I do watch it every once in a while. The Chikara A Go on YouTube. But like, I was just like, well, when did it come back, and what's the deal? What's up with those wrestlers? What's up with that promotion? Is like, where is it going, or where has it been? Do you know that storyline that tied everything up?
I don't know like the specifics of it. What I do know is that there was a big document written about it online that was like 68 pages. If you want to go and read that,
Christ,
that will explain everything. I didn't read that whole thing because I just don't have the time, especially with a company that I'm not that interested in.
Okay.
So I don't have the time to really sit there and read 68 pages worth of stuff. But they closed down, and then it was basically because they're all futuristic and they're trying to be something completely different. So I don't know if you've ever heard of John Titor, who was a supposed time traveler from the year like 2060 something. That was like popular on the internet, maybe like 2003, 2004.
No, I know nothing about this.
They tied that into it. Basically, it was like a time traveling
angle,
and it was just, that's as much as I know about it. R.D. Evans or Archibald Peck got hit with the back fist to the future by Eddie Kingston, and that's kind of how the whole thing started. And they shut the company down for about 9 months to a year, I'd say, and then they brought it back. But like, what really loses me is the fact that they shut it down.
Okay.
Because if you're shutting a company down and whatever, and you're doing it for a storyline, you're doing it to further a storyline, that whole thing lost me. Like,
well, how about this? Because here's a theory, and then we'll move on to something else, unless you want to get one last word in. I feel that it was probably like a work. They probably had to shut down for either personal reasons, financial reasons, or artistic reasons.
There was a few rumors of why it was shut down, but those were all debunked by the owner himself, who actually went on the Art of Wrestling podcast with Colt Cabana.
What episode was that? Do you remember?
I can't remember.
Was it like a year ago?
It was a while ago, like right around when Chikara reopened. But he totally, like, all the stuff about, because there was a rumor that he was getting a divorce from his wife after he cheated on her, and that she like owned the Chikara name, and none of that ends up being true according to what he said.
What's his name?
And his name is Mike Quackenbush.
Mike Quackenbush. I'm gonna have to look that up.
And the only reason why, according to him, that he shut the company down was to further a storyline, which if you listen to that podcast, I don't know, like, I went into it with just as many, or went out of it with just as many questions as I had going into it, meaning that that podcast really didn't do much as far as answering what I wanted to know. But he pretty much shot down the financial reasons and talked about the whole ex-wife thing, and that apparently wasn't true, and he just wanted to shut it down for a storytelling perspective, which to me doesn't make any sense, because then you're screwing yourself out of 9 months of profit.
Or,
but the way,
I mean, seasons.
Another thing, yeah, and another thing that is also true. They have a bunch of side promotions that are lumped in with Chikara called The Wrestling Is, and it's kind of like, in a sense, it's like the NWA where there's like wrestling is art, wrestling is fun, wrestling is like a bunch of weird names. So, and I think there's like 9 of them, and they're all attached to Chikara. So while this company was shut down, they were continuing all the storylines that were from Chikara on these various Wrestling Is promotions. So it's kind of complicated. Like, I'm no Chikara expert, but like I've heard a couple people that I follow on Twitter who are renowned, or they claim to be Chikara experts, and they didn't even get it. So, and the only person that really knows the truth to any of this is the owner himself.
Okay, all right. So I'll probably listen to Coke about it. His name is, say his name again.
Mike Quackenbush.
Mike Quackenbush. All right, so that's where Gargano is from, and Caiampa. I think moving forward with him, because they're not long term. I think they're just doing this as, that's the cool part about NXT. I think you have the liberty to sort of move units around back and forth. You can bring people up for a little tryout. They can, extend, because they're not on the main roster. And I think it keeps that fresh. It keeps it interesting. You never know who's going to show up. I think that's one of their mottos, right? NXT. You never know who's going to show up in NXT. It plays up to that. But let's say Ciampa sticks around. He's going to have to change the name. It's too much of a struggle for the average. I mean, everyone's changing their name, and it's not like Kenta, like where Kenta kind of rolls off the tongue pretty easily. Samoa Joe, he was able to keep his name for several reasons, but you know what? It still rolls off the tongue pretty easy when you got the GM of the brand calling him everything, but it creates a little bit of problem,
If they haven't changed it by now, they're not going to change it.
Well, no, he hasn't signed a contract though.
But even if he does sign a contract, they're not going to have him change it.
I guarantee he will. But I don't really see, and something that I picked up from that match, and even Johnny, it was weird. And I was sitting back going, do I see these guys like walking down the ramp of a Raw? And I went, no, not at all.
I'm completely different than what you're saying. I see Ciampa, but not Gargano.
Like, I like Ciampa. We've talked about this before. But like, I don't like this Ciampa. He was a little too happy-go-lucky. He was a little too cheery and too quiet for my taste. I think what I liked about him the most when he was on ROH, on the segments that I saw on ROH, that he had a little bit of edge to him. I appreciated that. And I'm like, well, what is the role he's going to play in this sort of limited NXT thing? He's not going to be given dialogue for that matter. I mean, I think none of them, both him and Johnny, not be given any kind of dialogue, but they're going to be bodies in the ring to sort of participate in this Dusty Rhodes tournament. But my initial look, it just thinking forward, I just go, this is, all I could see, and I don't mean this And it may come off real fucked up, but I saw nerds. I saw nerds, short nerds in the ring. Nothing really going for them. If I'm someone who's a casual watcher and keep up with maybe like the NXT product and like the WWE product, I'm like, well, these guys are a bunch of jabronis to me. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, I'm completely in disagreement with you. I mean, to the average person, they might not come off as like
superstars.
People might just say like, "Oh, who are these guys? They don't look like superstars." But that's the whole thing of you can't judge a book by its cover, and if you're a wrestling fan, you have to sit and watch it and just kind of take it in. And like, let's face it, NXT. If you're watching NXT and you look at Gargano and Caiampa and say, who are these guys? Why are they here? If you're one of those people, you shouldn't be watching NXT, because NXT was created by WWE for the people that don't necessarily like the WWE product.
No,
it's completely different.
They made it for developmental purposes. I mean, but
Stephanie McMahon herself has said verbatim, NXT was created for those that do not like the main roster product.
I don't buy it.
She said that word for word.
I think she said that to appease those who are sort of.
But it's the truth, though. Because
I don't think it's the truth. I don't think it's the truth at all.
I do, because if you look at NXT and then you watch Raw or a SmackDown, NXT is something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, it is completely different because it's given room to experiment and do things, and then test the waters with certain workers, whether they're from indie promotions or overseas, or guys who just walk into the plant who want to become stars. So it's a lot of pieces to move around, and they're given a lot of leeway, and they're given a lot of margin of error. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's not like it's any kind of real commitment. Now, granted, they got their go-to guys. They got their guys that they've had their eye on, and they got their guys that they see on the main roster. But I would say very much like moving up to like professional ranks in sports, like, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. It's not even 1% of the people that actually enter in minor leagues or go to, collegiate amateur, promotions to say, or leagues that make it to the big time. Now, I only see 2 or 3 at a, I only see like super limited amount of people that would actually come out of the NXT program up to the main roster. Like, next to none of them I see coming up. I see 1 or 2 guys, and I guess wrestling.
Who are those people?
Well, wrestling right now, I see Samoa Joe coming up, and I feel like that's going to be a rough transition. And I see Finn Balor coming up, and that's going to be a super rough transition. Everybody else, I feel, is going to have to wait, if not never come up.
Okay, off the top of my head, you talked about a couple people that you do see coming up. And I mean, eventually, a lot of the guys that you see in NXT will be brought up. There's 3 guys I can think of off the top of my head that will not be brought up. Those are Baron Corbin, Bull Dempsey, Mojo Rawley. But other than that, like, I don't see a problem with a lot of the people that are in NXT.
You know what's crazy?
What?
I think if Mojo Rawley is going to completely embrace his character as kind of like this comic sort of hype dude, if he just accepts it and he's not complaining about like how he's not getting a push, or he just takes his role as a comedic figure and like he's not going to go up against the grain or rock the boat, he has a better chance than, say, Corbin and what's the other guy you said?
Bull Dempsey.
And Bull Dempsey combined.
I think what I'll say about Mojo Rawley, and I'm not a huge fan of Mojo Rawley, but because he wasn't really doing anything for me as a single star, and I hate saying this, but I think that this Hype Bros tag team that he's got going with Zack Ryder,
he's pretty hilarious.
I mean, I don't like it, I hate it, in fact, because I think Zack Ryder is a freaking nerd.
What? Did you just called someone a nerd?
Yeah, I did, because he is a nerd.
Wow.
And he's overrated and overhyped, and I just...
Oh, no. He had his sweet spot. He had his sweet spot, and I was into it, and it was fun.
You mean when he, like, the week where he won the U.S. title?
Like, that whole like YouTube thing he was doing, I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it was really fun.
I thought it was stupid.
I wasn't sitting back going like, give this guy a push. I was like, well, this is going to be fun while it lasts. And
I thought it was dumb.
And it was fun. I think everyone kind of had fun at one point. And, regardless of how it ended, I think it was, it was just a breath of fresh air for like a hot minute. That a guy that actually took his fate into his own hands to get at least a little bit of a push as he possibly could. And he got over.
Yeah, and then you saw that he was a freaking nerd.
Well, I mean, I say fuck him now because... it's just almost like an ex-girl.
I say fuck him always.
It's like he's like an ex-girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, that was something there. And, we like held hands and ate out and, went to movies and had like good sex every once in a while. But right now I'm completely over you and have moved on to something. I'm still single, but I'm all right without you kind of a thing. The thing with Mojo is that he looks good. Like, he has a great physique. And that's one of the things that's missing. And, I look at Caiampa and I look at Gargano. I look at a lot of these guys. And I go, like, where's the physique? Where is because I'm not at all like a muscle guy. But I like to look at something like professional wrestling, especially WWE. And these people that are on... Oh, fuck. I apologize. What I was saying... And I apologize to the listeners. I guess we're having some technical difficulty with our connection, but we're going to get through this motherfucker. But what I was saying was, when I look at like the wrestling of yesteryear, and you got and they could be roided out, coked out. I don't care, but they looked and appear larger than life. And I just feel like a lot of these people who are coming up to NXT or people who are on the indies and people are like, you should give this guy a chance, give this guy a chance. And I'm like, well, maybe they should get a chance. But at the same time, am I going to invest in them? And I go, well, where's the larger than life? Where's the larger than life? The thing that I could never be. I don't want to look at a wrestler that I can relate to as much. I want to see a guy who I look up to as a person who's almost nowhere near where I could be in character or in physique. And that's part of it. Now, Baron Corbin, that guy has a chance. I think he really has a chance. But he's going to have to be company.
I think Baron Corbin does have a chance. Like, he's got a great look. His look is the kind of look that they go for. But his skill set is very limited.
But that's what we were talking about before.
His hairline is weird.
Yeah, the hairline is weird.
Like, I don't know how old he is, but his hairline is awful.
It's pretty wicked. It's like Dean Ambrose. It's like Dean Ambrose, like more noticeable. Dean Ambrose is embracing the comb over. This guy's doing the slick back. So
yeah,
it's like, hey man, if this is just going to be your route, you might want to adjust it and make it a little more badass. Like, just maybe take the two razor clean shave down two sides. Go with the buzz, sort of like a sort of new wave, sort of buzz cut sort of thing. But anyway,
he should get his head shaved bald and then get a Bam Bam Bigelow tattoo.
Yeah, basically. But his skill set, I just see him as more of a Diesel kind of guy. I mean, he doesn't have to do loop-de-loops and whoop-de-whoops and be like, ballerina all over the place. I think if he's just in there, a big guy, he's doing big moves and can get over somehow, I think it'll work. I mean, right now, Roman Reigns is the most pathetic worker I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, well, and the reason why is because he's got no substance. If you look at Roman Reigns, and then compare him to Baron Corbin, Baron Corbin will be fine.
Totally fine.
If you use the Roman Reigns
yardstick
analogy or the yardstick, yeah, sure, let's go with that. But like, because the thing about Roman Reigns, and this always drives me nuts, like, he's had one really good match that I really enjoyed, and that was his match with Lesnar at WrestleMania 31. But if you look at Roman Reigns, you take what he was doing in the Shield from 2012 all the way to June 2nd of 2014.
Hot tag guy.
When they broke up, or when the Shield broke up, yeah, he was a hot tag guy, so he would come in, hit his 5 moves, and then be done.
5?
And
you 5?
Yeah.
Are you serious? 5?
Wait, is it more or less? Is it less than 5?
It's like 2. It's 3. I mean, at the most 3. If you're talking about the drive-by,
he's got the drive-by, he's got the spear,
and he got Superman punch.
The Superman punch.
That's
it.
And
then he's got the gorilla scream, and then he's got the pounding the fist on the mat.
Oh God, you actually consider those moves?
No, I'm. That's a total joke.
I know, but
okay, he's a 3-move guy, but like, okay, that was fine when he was in the Shield, and fast forward from June 2nd, 2014 to now, which is whatever the fuck date we're on in 2015, September something
14th.
Yeah, 14th, 2015. And he's still doing the same shit.
No, he's
Mr. That's the problem.
You know what? You know what I call him? I call him Mr. Kick Slap Punch Kick Slap.
Yeah,
clothesline.
I don't know if you. There's this guy on YouTube, and he does he puts lyrics to guys' theme songs. He did one for Roman Reigns, and the chorus is "He will punch you, he will kick you," and because that's all he does.
Yeah, punch, kick, slap, punch, kick, clothesline, punch, kick, slap,
and spear. Yeah,
spear.
Like I said, he's only had one match that I actually enjoyed, and it was because of the opponent that he was in the ring with. I mean, I'm not a Roman Reigns hater. I'm not going to go as far as saying I hate the guy, even though he was forced upon us. But I don't think there's that much there.
Well, no, I mean, but you know what he has more than anybody else on that main roster outside of his
charisma and star presence.
The star presence is there. I mean, the guy looks like $1 million. He stands out. He's this big, huge, gorgeous man with an amazing physique, and it's like
gay.
That's. Hey, I'm just saying though. I don't have this everyman fallacy when it comes to my wrestling stars. You know, I want my guys to be larger than life. I want them to be so separate from who I am as an individual that it's almost to a degree of mythology. You know, to a degree of a comic book character.
So you're saying looks wise,
dude? I mean, the only person right now that I feel like you go back to Hogan, you go back to Macho Man, you go back to Andre the Giant, you go back to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and you go back to all those guys, right? The only person today on this roster, on this main roster, that could even come close to fitting, that hasn't already been there, right, is Brock Lesnar. And maybe John Cena. But Brock Lesnar. That look, that look he has, and his demeanor and his physique. It's like it's impossible to look at the landscape of the WWE right now, and you got your Randy Ortons, you got your Sheamuses, you have your Roman Reigns, and I'm calling out the big guys too. And maybe Cesaro and Kofi Kingston, guys that been on there for a while, right? And it's kind of hard to even imagine them even somewhat close to the likes of Rick Rude, and the $1 Million Man, it baffles my mind. And now you have these guys, these Sami Zayns, and you have these Daniel Bryants, and you have just maybe Johnny Gargano. And I go like, wow, this promotion is making a turn, not necessarily for the worse, but I feel like it's catering so much more to the everyman fallacy that really takes away from the fantasy that is professional wrestling.
Okay, and here's where we disagree. I mean, not so much disagree, but you have to look at it this way. You have to look at who is in charge of the WWE in the 80s and the 90s. It was Vince McMahon. You had, like you said, you had all these big, beefy guys who were larger than life.
And could work.
And then you've got...
Mr. Perfect?
You take into account what's going on now with Triple H running developmental and all that stuff, and the fact that he's eventually going to come and be the head honcho of the WWE, and the prototype for your typical WWE superstar is definitely going to change in between Vince McMahon and Triple H, because what Triple H thinks, or what Vince McMahon thinks makes up a good superstar, doesn't necessarily reflect what Triple H wants in a good superstar. And I was going to say this earlier, it's like, you could look like $1 million, but to me, like, I care about the wrestling aspect. I'm not like when I was a kid, what drew me into wrestling was the guys who looked larger than life. So like Ultimate Warrior, even though he couldn't wrestle, he was larger than life. He was amazing for that reason. But now that I'm older and I'm wiser, I'm in my 30s, my opinion on wrestling has changed, where it's like, especially with Ring of Honor, with Lucha Underground, with all that, I don't care how big you are. The only thing I care about and the only thing that concerns me is if a guy can work and if he's entertaining, if he can put a story together in a match that makes sense and that I can be with it.
But you have to take into consideration too, man, and not to disregard what you said, I get it, but those guys could wrestle back then. I mean, if you just throw in the Ultimate Warrior, that's one of how many guys that were on the roster right there that were larger than life.
I'm not saying these
guys were outliers, man. Like just physical freaks of nature on top of like physical athletic, like freaks of athletic ability.
But another thing too, though, like the time frame we're talking about, and like the Vince McMahon, like the embodiment of what wrestling was back then, was in the 80s. You have to remember that steroids were a huge thing. Steroids aren't as prevalent now as they were in the 80s and the 90s.
No, not at all. But you still
you're going to get guys who are smaller.
But you still have athletes who are just like, you mean, there's a GNC. There's ways to bulk up without steroids. There's ways to work out to really be big. I mean, you got people who are blessed genetically. You got guys who are big. They become like professional athletes. They become like Olympic athletes. You know, they're big, they're swole, they're making tackles, they're dunking on motherfuckers, they're knocking home runs. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You know, it's not like there's a shortage of big dudes. It's just a shortage of big dudes who don't want to wrestle. I mean,
I'm kind of speaking of big dudes. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't hired, or that Vince hasn't reached out to Brian Cage yet.
I think that's probably something. That's something else. I think it's a matter of networking, and there's like time. There's time. There's no need to rush a lot of these people onto a WWE contract. I mean, I would say even getting Uha. I don't like his character right now. They get Apollo Crews. I don't
like the name.
I don't like his character. I don't like it's very stereotypical of the super athletic, genetically like blessed African American ego guy. Like he's no different than me than Shelton Benjamin, you know? And it's like we've been through Shelton Benjamin. You can actually give this guy another gimmick. You can have him actually not be so arrogant because he's physically gifted more physically gifted than everyone else around him.
That plays into the whole theory of the fact that WWE can't give somebody, like, unless you're white and you're a male, WWE can't give you a substantial gimmick to where they can get longevity out of you.
And I feel like they rushed him in, though, too. Like, what is he, like 26?
I don't think they've rushed. He's 28.
baby. He's a baby.
I don't think they rushed him in. I think they wanted to get him before he was 30, and I think he's going to stay in developmental for at least 2 years. So by the time he's 30 and more mature, he will be on the main roster.
I don't know, man. I just hope it doesn't stunt his growth. Being there, because
I think he'll be fine.
He has more upside than he has downside, but I think what's really going to hurt him is how they pull off his gimmick. Because I don't think this is going to be the first. This Apollo Crews thing we see is not the first of how he's going to be presented at all. He'll probably be like Cesaro, like he'll probably go through like 10 gimmicks and and try to figure it out. But I guess the discussion isn't about Apollo Crews so much as, say, these big guys, your Mooses, your Brian Cages. They're all really young, once you think about it. And Brian Cage has time to make it to the main roster. And maybe, or get a WWE contract. And maybe once he goes in, he'll make an immediate impact. Because you know why? Because there's no one else like him standing around in the ring. He will stand out almost instantly when you have your Garganos and your Caiampas in the ring, and this guy over here who looks like, he looks like a god, So he'll definitely get, or like Samoa Joe, who's like a fat dude, I mean, I ain't saying like this, or Kevin Owens. I'm just going like, he will stand out. And I just feel like there's this anti-big guy thing going on in professional wrestling, which I think is completely silly. This whole everyman fallacy. I was watching something, and maybe it was the Wrestling Jesus. I don't even follow him anymore. But he was talking about how he loved, like...
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, he's like this dude, and he's kind of like he's an idiot. He's full of himself, and he has a really raspy voice, and... whatever. He's kind of like an internet troll to a certain degree, a wrestling troll. And he's silly. Whatever. He's worth checking out at least once. But he's called the Wrestling Jesus. And he's like a big guy, burly beard, and he sounds like that. But he was talking about why Kevin Owens rules. And basically he said that he ruled because he has a belly like me, because he has a beard like me, he's Canadian like me. And it's like, really? Why don't you just become a fucking wrestler? Right? I don't want to see a bunch of me in a goddamn ring. It just blows, this everyman fallacy thing. It's just, it blows my mind. And I feel like when you look out to the crowd and you see what the people look like and you see who the people they're rooting for, because they look like them. It's like the most narcissistic way of being a wrestling fan you could ever fucking be. Like, no, we don't want someone in there built and good looking. We want someone who looks like us, like Ham and Eggers.
I don't really think that that's really an issue anymore. You know what I mean? Like if Tommaso Ciampa was like 6'5" and like 300 pounds,
he'd be awesome.
It would be, but like I wouldn't look at him any differently if he was that way than I do now. Because what I'm concerned about is how a guy can wrestle. Mm-hmm. If a guy, like I said earlier, if a guy's a huge guy and he can barely move and not do a damn thing, then I'm not going to like him. But if he's a bigger guy and can wrestle, then that's perfect. But if he's a smaller guy, if he can wrestle, then that's all I care about. Tommaso Ciampa, when I first saw him in Ring of Honor, I'm like a huge fan of him now. First time I saw him, I thought he sucked. Mm-hmm. But then I got to the point where like I started watching him more and got to the point where I'm like, okay, this guy is actually coming around and he's really good. And he's got a look that is very unique to the wrestling business.
He looks like Aquaman.
No, he doesn't.
He looks like he would make a really good Aquaman. Like some sort of superhero that fights in the sea. I think it's the ears. And his head. But nevertheless,
I don't know what to say to that.
It's what I see. I see like a superhero from the ocean. Whatever. That's pretty silly. But check this out.
SpongeBob SquarePants?
No. I don't even know what that is really.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't. Like I've never seen an episode. I just see things. He's more like this thing than it is this thing to me. Like he's like, oh yeah, this thing exists, but I have no idea what it's all about.
Oh, okay.
So check this out, right?
All right.
Did we even come to a conclusion? Like Cesaro, the way you said about Caiampa is the way I felt about Cesaro. I was like, what the fuck is this guy? Fuck this guy. And now I love him. So I understand.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not talking shit about Gargano or Caiampa. I hope for them the best. I really hope that they can actually get on, do really well, and exceed to the highest point possible. You know, anyone's listening, I'm not trying to sound like I'm trying to tear them down or not giving them the chance. I will give them the chance. I'm a fan of both of them. I just feel that if I to make a comparison, which I shouldn't be because it's unfair, but as of now, and I look at them, I just cannot see them in the ring with Randy Orton. You know, I just cannot see them in the ring with John Cena. I can't see them in the ring with Cesaro. I can't see them in the ring with the Big Show even. It just doesn't work for me. And I would go down. I can't even really see them in the ring with Roman Reigns. I just can't. And maybe they're, develop and get over a little bit more, and I'll probably try to make more of the comparison, but I mean less of a comparison to see how far they can get. But right now, it was like apples and oranges. It was really weird. It was really a weird thing. And also, just to cap off that one part, is like, well, I hope they're athletes that are showing up, not just big dudes, but big dudes that are athletes. You know, and the wrestling will come naturally. You know, they're either going to get it or don't get it. The ones who do take a time to get it, they will be kept out of the ring to prevent from killing somebody. You know, but if they can get out there and they have a little more athletic presence, like Corbin, Moose, they all have a football background, and football players adapt the fastest to any training, to anything.
Unless you're Steve McMichael or Kevin Green. Yeah,
but I think to a certain extent he was older. You know, I think if McMichaels had coming in like younger, I think he would have grasped wrestling a lot more better. You know, but he came in as a fossil. You know,
how old? I don't even know how old he was when he came.
I would take a guess that he was at least 38 when he came up, because you have to take consideration he had already been like at least 6 years removed from the NFL, and they won that championship. The Bears won that Super Bowl championship in 86. So yeah,
I was like 1 year old, so I would not remember.
Yeah, so he had already hit a curve. You know what I'm saying? Like he had already hit a thing. And you look at Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone, and it's okay. Well, they hadn't trained at it, you know. But these younger football guys, they just dancing with the stars. The most dancing in the stars winners, they're all been football players because they learn so fast. But anyway. Tonight, Raw. Last week's Raw. You didn't like it, huh?
You're breaking up again.
Really? How about now? Hello? 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, you're good now.
Now you're breaking up.
I am?
Now you're back.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. My hand was in front of my speaker.
Okay.
So I apologize. So last week's Raw, what did I think about it?
Yeah.
Aside from there was a women's match, I believe, between Sasha and Paige.
Yeah. That
started the show, and that was like the highlight.
Really?
And that's really weird to say.
Yeah, it was.
It was all downhill from there, and one thing that I thought was weird, I stopped watching Smackdown, and now I'm to the point where I watch it on DVR just because I can get through it in an hour, and now that I actually have a DVR, that I've joined the fucking 21st century, I can do that. But, there was 3 matches on SmackDown that were rematches from Raw.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at least. And I didn't like the Raw, and so I thought the SmackDown matches were a little bit better. I thought SmackDown was better than Raw this week.
Actually, it wasn't. It was not good. It actually stunk. Surprisingly, because it actually is sometimes a better show than Raw, more cases than not. And this one was just like, oh, God.
And this week I thought, or last week I thought Raw or SmackDown was better than Raw, but not by much.
Well, you have, because you're not someone who really watches it. If you're starting to watch it now, I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I started, like, I've been watching it, but, like, ever since it moved to Thursday, I haven't been able to.
Yeah.
But now that I actually have a DVR, I can now. So I started, like, within the last couple weeks, I started watching it again.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm just kind of make it a part of my Thursday routine now. But it wasn't, like, for, like, the last, or for, like, maybe 2-3 months, it was something that I wasn't watching.
The only thing good that came out of it, and if you listen to Peter Talk SmackDown, the only thing I brought up was that, the only thing I thought that really stood out was Cesaro getting a victory over The Miz. And the fact that they probably won't even talk about it on Raw. They probably won't even ever bring it up. Like, he has a win over Rusev, a clean victory over Rusev that has never been brought up. And now he has a clean victory over The Miz, which I think is a good win for him. And they'll probably never mention it. And it's like a waste. That Divas thing it was pointless. I don't like this Paige Sasha Banks feud. I think it's pointless. And
why is it pointless to you?
Oh, because I don't care for a second storyline in the Divas division.
So you want one storyline all the time. You don't want any minor subset storylines that have nothing to do with the title.
No, not at all. I don't know why there needs to be. You have the women of WWE, say your Lanas and things of that nature, that can do things with male counterparts to extend the story, and then you have a fighting divas storyline that I think should be surrounded by the belt. Another feud outside of, say, storyline girls, fighting girls, that secondary thing is no different than, say, a mid-card. It's just another mid-card feud on a show. And I have no interest in that whatsoever.
Okay. So you're like, I kind of get what you're saying. Like, if it doesn't involve the title, I really don't care.
Yep.
I kind of am that way too, but like Sasha is somebody who I've always watched in NXT. Paige, I started watching NXT when she, like, the first ever episode I watched was the finals of the women's tournament, so I got to see her become the first women's champion. So, like, I've followed them both as long as they've been in NXT/WWE. But I can kind of see what you're saying. Like, for me, I like the match because it's something different, and it's two people that I've always wanted to see wrestle. I actually think the match would have been a lot better had it been in NXT, but that's a completely different issue. We don't need to go there. But, like you said, if it doesn't, like with the women, some people don't like women's wrestling, especially in WWE. And I'm kind of that way where I don't like women's, or it's not that I don't like women's wrestling, it's just women's wrestling in WWE within WWE doesn't really appeal to me all that much. So, like, anytime, like, I'm used to getting, like, maybe one women's match a show for the women's title. Like you said, I'm kind of with you. If it doesn't involve the women's title, then there's kind of no point.
Don't get me wrong. I like women's wrestling. I think what's happened with
same here.
Between Banks, Lynch, Flair, and Bayley, I've gotten more into. I'd imagine it got the ball rolling for a lot of guys to enjoy women's wrestling. I just don't like filler. I don't like filler at all. I don't want anything that basically pacify me. I want something that moves me. I want something that moves the needle. Something that represents something bigger, that can solidify themselves and their greatness within the corporation, the company that they work for. That's what I'm looking for.
So you want all killer, no filler?
Yes, and at the same time, I'm still totally behind my logic of too much too soon to bring all those girls up in one fell swoop and not having anything designated for them outside of just being a face in a faction. And to this day, and I'll speak on it, man. This Divas Revolution isn't really to do much of any revolutionary anything.
No, I know.
And once you really think about it, the biggest diva or the one woman that will end up on WrestleMania, in WrestleMania 32, is Stephanie McMahon.
Yep.
It's not going to be Sasha. It's not going to be Flair. It's not going to be Lynch. It's not going to be Paige. It's not going to be Bella. It's going to be Stephanie McMahon. And what they're asking for and what they're really shooting for is to have someone who's not even in the company. Someone who fights for another fucking promotion. And fucking... what the hell is her name?
Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey. So, I mean, I just go like, this is all filler. I mean, I understand the drama between like the whole like Bellatron and her defeating AJ Lee's streak or whatever. But to a certain extent, that's still petty nonsense.
Yeah,
it's petty nonsense. And now you got Flair going out there only to lose. Like, she's not going to beat tonight. And that's something we're talking about tonight. They already have 2 matches announced, right? It's 2 matches announced.
Correct.
We have a title match between the New Day and the Primetime Players, whoever
on the season premiere of Monday Night Raw.
The season premiere, and
only the 3rd time in history.
Yeah, right. The night of Monday Night Football. The beginning of Monday Night Football.
Yep.
Two games tonight too, and I'm gonna watch both of them. That's a championship match. Whoever wins this faces the Dudley Boys in the Night of Champions, and then this in itself is only a match that just won't make it to Night of Champions because they never planned for the Divas to be on the Night of Champions card in the first place. And this is the championship match between Nikki Bella and Charlotte Flair. I don't. This is the go home show too, so I don't know if there are any returns or anything this, that, and the other to really get hyped up for. It would have been. I'm
reading an article right now on pwmania.com, and apparently Miz TV is going to happen tonight, and he's going to have
Cesaro.
No, he's going to have guests that are, quote, the biggest thing that's ever happened. And it's something people will talk about for days. So it says no word yet on exactly who he will be interviewing. But he said, then it says Tom Phillips announced the segment in a video on Facebook. So just thought I'd throw that one out there.
I don't even want to guess what that is. Like I was about to rack totally my brain with this shit, and
you could trot out all the legends in the world. It still wouldn't make me want to watch a Miz TV segment.
It's something dealing with a big deal. You know what? I don't care, honestly. And if anything, he should be interviewing Cesaro. That's who he should be interviewing. He just tapped out to his ass. And honestly, what pissed me off about SmackDown, right? They had it in a place they were at least too fucking ashamed to even say that they were at. Mohegan Sun Arena. They didn't even say where the fuck they were. You know? Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And then you have this lumberjack match over this petty, like this kind of feud that kind of go, there's really nothing between the likes of Ryback and Seth Rollins. And it's like, why is this on SmackDown?
Because they don't know. See, that's the problem, and I've always thought this. I've never actually said it, but with Raw, we might have actually talked about this, but with Raw being 3 hours, SmackDown does not need to be 2 hours, because you used to have it where Raw was 2 hours, SmackDown was 2 hours. Okay, that's 4 hours. So you've got 4 hours to fill of TV time, not including NXT and whatever else is on the network. So that's 2 hours on Monday. Whoever doesn't get on Monday can go on Thursday or Friday or whatever SmackDown is on. But now that it's 3 hours for Raw, Raw is almost overexposed. I mean, it is overexposed to the point where SmackDown no longer needs to be 2 hours. Like, you could easily cut SmackDown down to 1 hour.
But it is 1 hour.
And it would be a much better show.
It's 1 hour and 20 minutes.
No, it's not. It's 2 hours, including commercials.
Yeah, with commercial. Well, take out the commercials. It's only like an hour and 20 minutes.
But they still say that it's 2 hours.
Yeah, Live Network.
Just like Raw, it's 3 hours.
Yeah, Live Network, and Raw is only like two and a quarter as well. It's 40 minutes of advertising.
If you take out the commercials, it's like I watched a 3 hour Nitro last night, and the runtime was 2 hours 18 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like 42 minutes of commercials, but still, it's considered a 3 hour runtime,
and it's not worth watching live. I mean, SmackDown. I would say since I've started doing the Peter Talk SmackDown, I've probably watched it 3 times live.
See, and I'm never home on Thursday, so I can never watch it live. But even if I was, there was a few Thursdays that I was home, and I did watch it, but I would much rather watch it on record and be able to fast forward through what I don't want to see, not fast forward through what I don't want to see, because I watch everything that's on there, but fast forwarding through the commercials, it makes life a lot easier.
So, do we even know what card, who's fighting at Night of Champions? I mean, I have no idea what the card is. I know that.
Give me a minute.
I know that the Dudley Boys are going to be fighting. I know Sting and John Cena will face Seth Rollins. There's no Divas match.
Yeah, there is.
For Night of Champions, what?
Wait, no, never mind.
Exactly.
There probably will be one made tonight, though.
Rusev versus Dolph Ziggler.
Which I don't want to see.
I mean, I don't mind it. I think it'd be mildly entertaining.
Their last match sucked.
I guess if they extend it, I don't want to see Sasha Banks and Paige on Night of Champions.
The matches, as according to Wikipedia,
Kevin Owens.
There are 5 of them.
Oh, that's sickening.
And it says, I'll go in reverse order, but it says TBD, which they have a C, which means they're the champions, so I'd assume it's the New Day taking on the Dudley Boys for the tag titles. You've got Rusev versus Summer Rae, Rusev versus Summer Rae. Rusev versus Dolph Ziggler, if I can talk. You've got Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns and a mystery partner versus the Wyatt family. You've got Rollins versus Cena, and then you've got Rollins versus Sting.
And that's one dude in 2 of the 5 matches. And then you got the Intercontinental belt, and Ryback, it looks like he may just be fighting Kevin Owens. And then you got the Divas championship match that's going to happen tonight on Raw. It's like,
yeah,
what the fuck
but
are you
nothing
doing?
is really set in stone for the Divas or the Intercontinental title, or even, the U.S. title is being defended, I guess. So
it's going to be Kevin Owens, but then it's like, oh, God. Oh, whoa. That's bad, man. That's really
Here's
bad.
a question for you. Who do you think is going to be the mystery partner for Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns against the Wyatt family?
I don't know. Until my only... Because the only guess that I have is the Big Show. And you know how...
Nope.
It's just something weird. Honestly, I don't care.
My gut feeling tells me Randy Orton.
No, they got him out of there. He's off TV for a while. Him getting beat down was a means to write him off TV, so we won't see him on TV for quite some time.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah. Everyone's speculating Rowan. And
that would be weird.
That'd be really weird.
I think that's a stretch.
Because it's like we want an equalizer, not a jabroni. And all I could do is think, like, the only guy that could step in there and just be someone who's like, can at least somewhat be look the part of an equalizer, as big as Braun is, as a person that he can't lift up and choke to death, is the Big Show. That's the only possible thing. Now he's gonna go over on the Big Show, but if he's there, but at least let's give us some aesthetic that's so as close as it could possibly get to make it look like Braun is outweighed, you know? And that's the only person I could come up with.
So you're thinking the Big Show. I hope to God you're wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me if you're right. And then when I'm live tweeting that show, I can just say, and yeah, Big Show ruins things, because that's a thing on Twitter. So
he has his moments, man. I mean, I like the Big Show. He has his moments when he's dope. He got his moments where he's not utilized properly, and then he got times where he's just not needed around.
I liked him when he was in WCW, when he was doing all that stuff, and when he first came into WWE, I really liked him. But like as of like 2000, like maybe if you get into like 2007 and on, it's like he's really not needed. Dude, the last time I found him interesting was when he was the ECW champion. That's how long ago that was.
That senton off the second buckle, that shit floored me. I'm still floored to this very day. Now, again, the best way you could use this guy right now, the Big Show, would be in sort of a situation like this. Let what's called get tossed around for a little bit. Braun, you know, we want to keep him strong, but like I feel like because you got to feed him to someone soon, and he has to prove his merit. And as big as the Big Show is, and like him kind of being on, I don't know if he's on the outs or not, but what he represents and how he's been used, he's kind of disposable to a certain extent. But he's a good disposable. You know, he's a credible win. If you beat the Big Show, he's still credible.
I disagree.
So I think he's credible enough. But the best way you can use the Big Show right now, and I didn't know this was going to turn into like a Big Show conversation, but like the best way that you can use the Big Show is to put him in a feud with Neville. I want to see that match so bad. I mean, maybe for something. I want to see it. I think it would make for a good storyline. It'd be something. It would be something very useful for the Big Show, and it'd be something that could really help Neville as well. Like they'll be helping each other, and I think it'd be something really good. This David and Goliath. I mean, it's so bare bone classic material type shit that how can it go wrong?
That's a good question. I really don't know. You have to wait and see, pretty much.
Give it to me. Give me the Big Show versus Neville, and I will sit back and wait.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
And as for God, what else is there? Because man, I got so much shit on my brain when it comes to the WWE in terms of how they totally dropped the ball on giving us a reason to watch on Mondays during the football season. And you're not a football guy, if I
I'm not. Like, I'll put it this way: I'm a football guy, but I'm not going to sit there and like I don't follow football enough to do fantasy football. But I do watch it and I do enjoy it. So for that reason, like I am a football guy, but like I said, the very reason that I just said that, like I kind of am not because I don't follow it as religiously as some other people do.
I follow it religiously. And I don't do fantasy because fuck fantasy. I'm no analytics guy. I give a fuck about analytics. And that's why NFL has gotten way more popular now, because people crunch numbers now and they feel involved. You know, they watch the game to the bitter end because they're invested in players advancing their fantasy team, right? But as a sports guy, it's kind of hard for me to draw myself away from watching Monday Night Football. It could be the fucking Tampa Bay Bucks versus the fucking Oakland Raiders. It's Monday Night Football. Anything can happen. I know I'm watching with a good 30 other million people, and I can interact just as much on Twitter and Facebook as I do WWE, because I feel like, to a certain extent, you get some interaction with some wrestling people, but you get way more interaction with football people on Twitter. Because people are more passionate about their teams and about their fucking fantasy to jaw back and forth,
Yeah. If I wasn't doing a podcast, meaning, this one and Eyes on the Ring, but if I didn't have that, and if I didn't live tweet every Monday via the Eyes on the Ring account and my account, and it was just my account that I was live tweeting Raw from, chances are I would probably watch less of it. But because I'm doing what I'm doing, I don't feel forced to watch it, but I kind of need to watch it in order to be able to talk about what's going on.
I do it on Tuesday. Tomorrow, I get off work, I pull it up on, Watch Wrestling, and I watch it. I'm saying this already, and if you're listening now, and if you check out, check out Peter's Raw Recap, they're going to be on hold for the next 18 weeks. I'm watching Raw Tuesdays. I get to buy all the commercials, and I'm still able to do the podcast, the Peter and Jake Talks Wrestling podcast, and I'll be able to keep it moving. But I'm not that invested in doing as much as you are with live tweets. I find it to be a little frustrating sometimes, the lack of interaction that you actually get out of it. And I get a lot of interaction out of it, so it depends who you follow, who you're following, and all that stuff. Yeah.
So I'm not trying to brag or sound like a dickhead, but I think I have probably a lot more followers than you.
Of course you do. I'm not a Twitter guy.
Well, and exactly. I'm not, like I said, that probably sounds like a dickhead kind of thing to say to somebody, and I'm not trying to sound like that. It's just the more followers you have, the more interactions you're going to get. It's just basic common knowledge and math.
Yeah, of course.
So,
of course.
And there was a time when I first started live tweeting Raw, back in 2012. When I got a phone that I actually could do it with, I barely got any interactions. Now it's happens all the time. So it's just, if I don't do it, then people will say, well, where are you? What are you doing? This and that. So
watching football, nerds. But yeah.
Pretty much.
Is there anything else? I mean, we can't even do a prediction because we don't even know who's going up against. I have this weird feeling that the primetime players are going to win tonight. And it's going to be the fucking Dudley Boys versus the champions, the primetime players, and they're going to lift those belts off of the primetime players.
That would be the worst.
It really will be.
And it would continue the hot potato of the tag titles, because that's kind of what they're doing with the tag titles ever since New Day had their first reign, and then Primetime Players won them pointlessly. I mean, I'm glad they won them, but it was really pointless if you think about it, because then they brought it back to the New Day, and so that Primetime Players thing was that reign was completely pointless.
Well, it was only to get over the fact that they had a champion that was the best dad kind of a thing. And that's all that really was. Yeah. And when that blew over, they could give it back. But again, this is all to put the Dudleys over. Maybe they got a surprise. I don't know. I just go, well, people are like, oh, yeah, the tag division is great. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not at all. It's not.
It seems
bad.
Like it is. It seems like it has a lot of depth. But if you really look at it, if you sit down and you really analyze it,
it's horrid.
Yeah, it's not good. It's there's 3 tag teams and they're all doing the same thing. It's like the Divas Revolution.
It's a joke.
Everyone thinks that's good, but it's a joke because they can't get away from all these there's 3 3-person teams involved with the Divas Revolution.
I don't know what the fuck is up with these threes, man. The WWE is all about fucking threes.
Me and the guy I mentioned earlier, me and my best friend Joe, we have talked about that all the time. It's like WWE cannot get away from the number 3. They like when they brought the NWO in from WCW, they had 3 initial members. When it was a Shield, it was 3 initial members. It's always stables of 3. Now you've got PCB, Team whatever the hell they're called, Sasha
Bad.
Yeah. And then you've got the other team, which I can't even remember
Team
who
Bella.
they are.
They're just called Team Bella.
Yeah, so Team Bella, which is the Bellas and Alicia Fox. It's like, so there's 3 3-person teams. They can't get away from the number 3, and it drives me insane. Because they've never been able to do that.
The new theme song for the season premiere of Raw should be Schoolhouse Rock's 3 is the magic number. A man and a woman had a little baby. Yes, it did. It was 3 in the family. It's magic number. Just go for it, man. Fuck it. Just go for it. I don't see why it wouldn't work. It would go over like a motherfucker.
People wouldn't get it. Me and you would, but no one else would get it.
My God.
Yeah, it's funny that you even mentioned that because, like I said, me and my best friend, we were talking about it, and it's like before we even started talking about it, I didn't even realize that WWE did that. But it's like they do everything in 3s.
I've been bitching about it for a minute now.
They always do like best of 3 matches or like best of 3 feuds and stuff like that.
Triple threats. I even the WrestleMania main event ended in a 3-way, and it's like that
was the one exception. Like I thought that was really cool, but because I've always wanted to see a cash in happen at Mania.
I'm saying, dude,
but
like this,
I completely understand where you're coming from on this issue.
I've had my share of heel moments, me talking about this triple threat shit, this 3-3-3 thing, and it's like Seth Curry needs to just fucking show up to one. It's like, you know, Steph Curry needs to show up. It's like, why is he here? You get it, threes, man. But it's something else I wanted to bring up, and it was I watched NXT last week. Oh, actually, I saw ROH last week. And it was like the 2 title defenses. I don't know what the fuck the Kingdom is up to. Like
you're a week behind, right? Because you watched it on Destination America.
Yeah. I watched the one. I watched basically the Roderick Strong,
Jay Lethal.
I love Jay Lethal so much.
He's the best. I look forward just to hear a promo of his, man. He's just great, man. And you know, Roderick Strong, Lethal rematch, and then I saw the tag team. The Addiction versus the Young Bucks. 2 teams I do not like.
I love the Addiction, man. Frankie,
there's nothing there for me.
Frankie Kazarian
is super
I love
bland.
him, man. I think he's so good, and like the chemistry between him and Daniels, I just it goes unmatched to anyone that I think is in a tag team right now.
They're a good team. It's just they don't appeal to me at all.
Yeah, I don't know why. They're so good. They're really good. But I also watched NXT and Samoa Joe with Finn Balor versus the who did they face? The Lucha Dragons?
Yeah.
In a good setting, you know, not in your typical NXT setting.
Yeah, because I hate Full Sail, and I hope they never go back there.
But it was a big stage, and it was probably the biggest stage I'd ever seen Samoa Joe in. Like, you know, it looked good. They did the whole Finn Balor intro. Everyone looked, you know, seemed pretty stoked about it all. And I go...
The fans, you mean?
Yeah.
No, not from what I saw. The fans looked lost on what to do with their... They didn't know how to do the entrance.
Well, I'm just saying, it wasn't like... What the fuck, though? It wasn't crickets. I think people were pretty attentive. I think for me, for the most part, I guess why I'm bringing this up is the aesthetic. And it looked...
Okay.
It looked good. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, I get to look at these 2 guys in this kind of a setting. And I go, this looks natural. You know what I'm saying? And seeing Samoa Joe in that kind of setting, I was like, wow, this is pretty neat, you know? I was wondering what you felt about that. Just the match itself, whatever. I'm just talking about like just them in that kind of a setting with that kind of with that much people in the crowd. It was basically them in Providence. It was a dark match for SmackDown for NXT in Providence.
I really liked it because it's taking away the small arena feeling and it's getting NXT in front of a larger audience. But the problem I see it having is that the NXT is known for having a rabid crowd. You get that in Full Sail, even though I hate that crowd because they're idiots. You got that in New York with the Brooklyn show. You didn't get that with this Lucha Dragons match.
But you have to take into consideration, these guys are kids. It's more children in the stands than anything.
No, I understand that, but it's just it takes away from the feel of NXT itself,
which I think is silly.
Yeah,
keep your ass in these small arenas and stop trying to make NXT into as big of a deal. It's not a big deal. It's developmental. It's develop. You know how you talk about me about how if it happens on SmackDown, it doesn't exist, dude.
Yeah.
NXT is developmental. They need to slow their roll with this whole like let's put them in like these crazy arenas or like let's go on these crazy epic tours.
But it's popular.
It's not popular.
Yeah, it is. You know the NXT special that's happening. You know how fast it sold? 6 minutes.
Excellent.
Yeah, so people are clamoring to see NXT because it's popular.
I'm not buying it.
People want to see it. It's an attraction because Triple H knows what he's doing.
And I see it as a training camp. It's no way in hell. And I say this to you. I say this to Jake. I say this to anybody. There's no way you can convince me at all that NXT is anything more than a developmental.
It is developmental, but I agree with Jake. He said it on a previous Peter and Jake Talks Wrestling. It is, in a sense, a third brand.
No, it's not.
And you have to realize that. Yes, it is.
No, I ain't got to realize that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you do. Because it's a completely different. If you watch a Raw and then you watch an NXT, they're completely different from each other. You watch a main roster pay-per-view, you watch an NXT TakeOver. They are completely different from each other.
I enjoy the product. I'm not saying I don't enjoy the product. I enjoy the product, bro. I just go, I'm only looking at it for what it is. I will always look at any player on that card, any match on the bill. I'm only looking at it in a sense, well, how can I see this on the main roster?
Yeah.
Do I see it on the main roster or don't I see it on the main roster?
See, and
that's it. That's all. That's what it's for. It's promotion. It's the future of the WWE. It's the people who are going to be on the main roster.
You have to stop doing that.
Nope.
You have to take NXT in for what it is.
Nope.
If you're sitting there and you're over-analyzing everything...
I didn't say over-analyze.
You're not going to get enjoyment out of it. Well,
I enjoy it.
I know you didn't say over-analyzing, but that's pretty much what you're implying.
No, I'm not. I've made up in my mind what to expect out of the NXT product.
And you can't do that.
I can totally do that.
No, you can't, because then you're going in with predetermined expectations.
No, I'm looking at it like I'm looking at college football. I'm looking at it like I'm looking at minor league baseball. I'm looking at it like I'm looking at people who are in amateur athletics. Do these guys got what it takes to make it to the big leagues? That's it. Like, I'm not looking at them like they're another company. That's what ROH is for me. That's what New Japan is for me. Again, less than 1% of the roster is going to make it to the main roster of that NXT roster. Less than. And I could look at it as its own brand, but if it was its own standalone brand, then I would do that. But they're connected to the WWE. So my brain just doesn't allow me to separate the two for what departments they are. You got upstairs, you got downstairs. Who makes it upstairs? Some people. Who's going to make it upstairs, right? And then if you're downstairs, you're nothing more than developmental to me. You can.
I will agree with you on the extent that it cracks me up that people will sit there, and I've seen this on Twitter, people say that they don't like WWE, but they like NXT, and what they don't realize is that NXT is WWE, and the thing, I'll agree with you on this, too, it's like NXT, I said it, you have to enjoy it for what it is, but at the same time, you can't really do that because it's not going to always be the same.
What it is.
Because you have so many people coming up to the main roster, and then they have to fill in the blanks of what the talent that goes up there. They have to replace it. That's exactly what's happening with the Divas division or the women's division in NXT. So I completely understand that aspect of it.
There's no room. There's no room to bring up anybody. I mean, you got Kevin Owens, you got Neville, you got Xavier Wood. And then you look at the people prior to him, your Bo Dallases, your Adam Rose, who are complete flops. I mean, if you're looking at the NXT product, right now it's a complete failure. The project itself to get superstars to the main roster, it's a failure. Its track record stinks. It's like the worst track record of any promotion right now.
I agree, but it does have some potential in Adrian Neville. I've said this on Twitter. I think Adrian Neville could be the guy that goes the farthest out of any of these NXT guys. And Kevin Owens.
Finn Balor.
There's a handful of guys that are going to do well, but I agree, you are right. There's not a lot of people like that. But what I think it is that Triple H is in charge of NXT, and then WWE is in charge, or Vince McMahon's in charge of WWE. So it's a disconnect between Triple H and Vince McMahon more than anything.
No, I don't think there's a disconnect. I think they're completely in sync with what they want happen. Now, I guess the filter itself, it's not only Vince McMahon, even though he's like the main hacho. I mean, the main. You know, he's the head honcho who decides ultimately. But there's a whole fleet of guys that are like nitpicking at who's going to make it and who's not. You got Michael P.S. Hayes. You got Kevin Dunn. You have Michael Cole. You used to have Dusty Rhodes. You got all those guys sitting around a table saying this guy's going to make it or break it. I mean, when you watch that NXT thing, the NXT E60 on ESPN, where they got, you got to know who Adam Rose was. You got to know who the kid with the tattoos. Commentary. Corey Graves. You got to know who Xavier Wood was, right? And they went and they broke down the evaluation table. They went to the evaluation table, just people sitting down, evaluating these guys and what they could do and what they can't do, who liked who didn't like who. All those people walk up to that chopping block. They're all going to go up there, and I'm going to and Triple H knows what he has. I think he knows what he has. He's not an idiot. I think, if anything, he's cool to give these people a chance. These people can say, "Yeah, I had a WWE contract." Maybe put a little extra money in your pocket and maybe give you an opportunity to come indeed to the big leagues. But after that, I just go, there's definitely there's a level of success that I think the average NXT person just will not get to. It won't.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. And like what I think of is like OVW. Okay, back when OVW was still attached to the WWE. Mm-hmm. You got Brock Lesnar, you got Randy Orton, you got
John Cena.
John Cena, all out of the same class. Batista. And there might have been another one, but those are the big four, okay? You got all those guys
Santina Marella
all at the same time. To some extent, but I'm talking major stars.
Mm-hmm.
Santino wasn't really that major of a star, even though I enjoyed what he did and the fact that he basically came out of the crowd like he was a fan.
Yeah.
And won the Intercontinental title. I thought was one of the coolest moments in WWE that I had seen in quite some time up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But NXT doesn't really have that. You know what I mean? Like, there's not too many guys that you could look at and say, okay, this guy has it. He's going to be a huge star within 10, 15 years. And I think that's the problem.
And another problem,
even FCW didn't have that,
and they're not homegrown. You look at a guy like Kaz and Amore. I feel like those guys have a better chance to make it up to the main roster than any of those indie guys that's coming up, because you know what? They're homegrown talent. You know, they just happen to walk in. It's like, hey, we want to be wrestlers, and like it is the old school approach to how they develop new stars. It was like people in their basement. What's that buzz? Stop it.
Sorry, I had to plug my phone in.
Oh.
Because it's dying.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we need to get off this thing anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like just because Vince and Triple H can look around and be like, well, we're responsible for these guys. You know what I'm saying? And they're more likely to get the rub than, say, someone coming out of ROH, someone coming out of, like, Evolve. Even though they have a partnership now, or ROH or Evolve or New Japan or any other promotion, it's like, these are our guys. These are guys that we made. The success they have, the name that they made, is because of us. And OVW gave you that. It was secret, even though they did some stuff, it was still secret. They weren't given their own network special, FCW, same thing. It's like, these guys were just down there doing their own thing, and you didn't know who the fuck they were because there was no real backing behind getting these guys known.
Yeah, and I get a kick out of if you go and you ask, okay, you look at NXT, who are some of the standouts and some of the stars that were made in NXT, people will say Seth Rollins, people will say Dean Ambrose, and people will say Roman Reigns. But what I will say to them is no, because they were there when it was FCW.
Yeah, and Roman Reigns is the only self-made, the only WWE made guy out of those three. Yeah,
but that's like probably the best example, and they're not even like NXT guys. And like I went on, I talked about this on, there was a Raw that was going on one night, and I said that I'll go back to this point. I said Adrian Neville has a shot to be the one guy that comes out of NXT that is made on the main roster. Meaning he's the one guy from NXT that is a successful guy on the main roster.
He's slipping now, though.
He is, but it's only temporary. Someone replied back to me and said Seth Rollins. And I said no. And I said the reason why is because he is from FCW.
Yes. He's from ROH to FCW.
Well, okay, I'm not even talking because then if you're talking Adrian Neville, you could say, oh, he came from PWG.
Yeah, of course.
To NXT. But I'm completely taking the indies out of it. I'm just saying WWE related things onto the main roster.
Yeah, but I brought it up because WWE did have a relationship with ROH in terms of talent exchange, and that's why.
Well, and they still do to some extent.
Not so much recently, bro. I mean, their shit is severed. It's pretty bad. It's pretty petty, but their relationship is pretty severed right now, and I wish they'd fucking make up, kiss and make up, but. You know how it goes with wrestling.
Yeah.
It takes time. Heat sticks around for quite some time because it's probably one of the most petty fucking professional entertainment things ever. how I wish that corporate things would actually step in and be like, dude, this is dumb. Like, cut this out. We got a business to run, okay? You want to talk about best for business. This petty bullshit, especially the talent that you've gotten from these people that become big stars and put money in your pocket, cut it out.
Yeah.
You know? Now you go in a corner, you think about what you did, and you come back, and we shake hands, and we move forward, because we got money to make. We ain't got time for this petty heat bull crap. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this fucker up. Get your plugs in, bro.
I am Nathan. You can follow me on Twitter at Headliner5. Please go to eyesonthering.com. Read everything that is on that website. I recently submitted a review from this last Saturday's airing of Ring of Honor Wrestling, which aired on the Sinclair broadcast group station. Because I do get the Destination America one, but I don't watch it because I watch the first run episodes because I'm cool. So read that. Read all the other stuff on eyesonthering.com. Go to spreadshirt.com/DARTs. Pick up an Eyes on the Ring shirt. Go to facebook.com/Eyes on the Ring. Hit the like button. Follow Eyes on the Ring on Twitter at Eyes on the Ring, and listen to the radio show every Sunday night, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock Eastern. This week, or this Sunday, will be 11:30 Eastern since it's a pay-per-view night. But Eyes on the Ring will bring you the entire week that was professional wrestling. We do it every Sunday for 3 hours. blogtalkradio.com/elitepodcastnet. We've got some big things in the works, or at least I do, for Eyes on the Ring. So I'm not going to reveal too much of what I want or what I'm trying to do before it happens, because if it doesn't happen, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, mainly mine. But there are some things in the works for that podcast, so just be sure to check us out.
Twitter?
I mentioned that at the very beginning, but again, you can follow me on Twitter at Headliner5, and that is the number 5.
The number 5 and not spelled out. All right. Thanks for listening to episode 10 of the Neu Daye Podcast. You can find my ass on Twitter, PJTW. I'm on there every once in a while. I'm mostly sometimes posting some shit live during Raw. Not so much now because the NFL wins. The WWE did a horrible job to give me a reason to keep watching them live. They had their moment. You know, it was a weird downtime for the NFL. They had Deflategate going on. It got annoying. They could have gave us the things that we wanted to make us happy. But I already know it's all filler, because when WrestleMania comes around, WrestleMania 32, nobody on this roster right now is going to be on that fucking card. So I could bitch and moan and complain about how one guy's not getting the proper push or someone's getting a push that they don't deserve, but who cares? None of them going to be on WrestleMania. So I am, depending on what game it is, I may be tweeting every once in a while live. But definitely, Peter and Jake Talks Wrestling podcast is every Wednesday in video format now. We will be reviewing tonight's Raw. Where is it tonight?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I could take a couple minutes and look it up.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. But Peter and Jake Talks Wrestling, that'll be episode 56. We will be reviewing and talking about this Wednesday's Raw in video format. And we will also give our predictions to Night of Champions. Right now we got 5 people on the fucking card, 5 matches, and 2...
Memphis at the FedEx Forum.
Okay, and one person is in 2 of those fucking matches. So, once you think about it, it's only like 4 matches. We're going to do a thing on that. Also look forward to Peter Talks Smackdown. Maybe they're going to have like a little go-home show for that as well, tying some ends on the lower end of the card spectrum. And then live reactions on the YouTube exclusive of the Night of Champions, which I will be watching live, but definitely getting my live reactions on. I think I'm watching it with Jake, so look forward to that. But yes, PJTW Central Twitter, and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment. Please like us. Please comment. Please subscribe. Everything we got going. Again, I noticed a spike again this week. People are picking up on like the Neu Daye Podcast because you feel the power. Make sure you let people know that this shit is going on, and things respectively on the Peter Talk side and on Eyes of the Ring side. We would greatly appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get the fuck out of here. You got any last words?
Nope. Just enjoy football or Raw or whatever the hell you're watching tonight, and that's about it. Whatever you're watching, just have fun with it.
Have fun with it, and while you're having fun with it, watch out for the foreign objects. Peace.
Peace.